Welcome to Sport Talk. Today, we will get into a very touchy subject of mine, the Boston Celtics. I became a Boston Celtics fan by pure luck. My dad and my brother one day went out and decided to buy a PlayStation 3 back in 2009. We got games like SmackDown vs. Raw 09, Legends of WrestleMania, and NBA Live 09. I was into basketball somewhat when I was little. I mainly followed Shaq, played NBA Street Volume 2, and then I kind of just stopped watching altogether around 2007, 2008, and my love of football became more and more, and it became a lot more prevalent in my life over other sports, and it just became my, go-to sport. So when I got NBA Live 09, it was a chance for me to get back into basketball. So I told my brother, the first team that pops up in this game will be my favorite team going forward. And it just so happened it was the Boston Celtics. It was the year after they beat the Lakers in the NBA Finals. And if it was a year earlier, I would have been a Spurs fan. Or if it was a year later, funnily enough, I would have probably been a Lakers fan. But since then, my love of the Celtics has grown and it's still going strong 14 years later. However, in those 14 years, there have been some ups and there have been some brutal downs. And today, we're going to be going over those brutal downs since 2010 to the present. So, when I became a fan of the Boston Celtics. This list is going to comprise of my personal take on the worst Celtics playoff losses since 2010 and how they impacted me. So be sure to leave your list in the comments down below. The number 10 game on this list is the Wizards' Game 6 of the second round in the 2017 playoffs. This series was crazy and probably one of the most underrated series of the past decade. You had Isaiah Thomas and John Wall dueling it out in their primes. Isaiah was putting up 27 per game in this series, and John Wall was averaging 25 and 10 in this series. But sadly, both of these players would never be at that elite level again, especially in the playoffs. But they gave us one of the most entertaining finishes in the last decade in this Game 6. So I was at home in the living room watching this with my brother to give y'all a little bit of the atmosphere going on. Both teams had won every game up to this point, and the Celtics held a 3-2 series lead going into Washington for Game 6. So Isaiah Thomas drills a 2 and a 3 to put the Celtics up by 5 with 1:34 left in the game. The next possession, Marcus Smart draws a charge on John Wall, and then everything after this just started going downhill for my Celtics. With 1:15, Isaiah Thomas has one of the worst turnovers you'll ever see, and it leads directly into a three-pointer by Bradley Beal. So on the next possession, IT then gets a shot blocked by John Wall, and it leads to a foul where Wall drains both his free throws. Brad Stevens then did what he did best as the Celtics head coach. He drew up an inbound play for Avery Bradley, and he hits it, but he's a half a foot back from it being a three-pointer. Bill then comes down and ties it back up immediately. Then Brad did Brad things and has IT and Al Horford play the two-man game, and Al calls his bank, and the Celtics are back up by 2. Then John Wall just hits a dagger of a shot in Avery Bradley's face, and he puts the Wizards up, and it ended up winning the game for the Wizards. I just remember being like, this series is probably over. We just completely blew our best chance at making the Eastern Conference Finals in the last 5 years. This team didn't really have a shot to beat that Cavaliers team with Kyrie and LeBron and Kevin Love, but just getting there would have been a huge accomplishment, especially with the Celtics eventually getting that number 1 pick in the lottery a few days later. It was just a heartbreaking loss at the time. But there's a reason it's so low on this list. It's because the Celtics ended up winning Game 7 and eventually went on to play that Cavaliers team in the Eastern Conference Finals, where they ended up losing in 5 games. But all in all, this loss was just brutal. I just remember it and how heartbreaking it was. The number 9 game on this list is the Bucks Game 5 loss in 2022. This series last year was insane. There were so many ups and downs and twists and turns in this series, and this and the Celtics and Heat's rivalry is probably one of the best things going on in rivalries in the NBA right now. And this Game 5 loss was just a gut punch. I was in my college apartment watching this with one of my friends, and I was really hyping myself up after that Game 4 comeback win to tie the series up 2-2. I was like, we have this. All we have to do is win 2 at home, and we're going back to the Eastern Conference Finals. And the way this game ended, I was very close to giving up on my team. We are up by 4 with just over 2 minutes left in the game, and Jaylen Brown misses an easy mid-range shot, and Al Horford just turns back the clock with a crazy athletic putback. And at this point, I feel really good. We're up in TD Garden by 6. We just got a huge momentum swing. Then the very next possession, we go up an offensive rebound to Wesley Matthews. Wesley Matthews. I remember him back in his Trailblazer days. Just giving up that offensive rebound to him was like, I was like, what's happening here? And he kicks it out to Giannis, and he drills a 3 to make it a 1-score game. A few possessions later, Bobby Portis misses a point-blank layup, and TD Garden's going crazy. Then Marcus Smart loses his handle, and Giannis starts a fast break, and eventually finds Jrue Holiday, and he banks in a 3 with 42 seconds left in the game, and the game is tied up. Jason Tatum then put the Celtics back up 2 on the very next possession. Then Giannis gets fouled, and he drills his first one, and I am like, okay, the worst thing that can happen here is he makes it, and we go to OT. I'm perfectly fine with that. It's in Boston. We are probably going to get the win, right? Oh, no, I was completely wrong on this. This dumb play happens next.
Got it. Portis puts it up, and it goes! And Milwaukee is in front!
With 11 seconds, Marcus Smart gets absolutely stuffed by Jrue Holiday, and the Bucks get the ball back on top of that. Then they hit 2 free throws, and there's still a chance we're only down by 3, right? Well, Marcus Smart has Tatum wide open, and he decides to play hero ball, dribbles between 2 Bucks players and loses it, and we lose the game. It was such a heartbreaking loss. This was one of those losses that I felt like my heart got ripped out of my chest. The way in which they lost was so horrendous. And that's to say the least on that. I thought our season was over. We're going back to Milwaukee in Game 6. But there's a reason, like number 10, this is so low on the list. It's because we won in Milwaukee, and then we won back in Boston in Game 7 and moved on to the Eastern Conference Finals. The number 8 game on this list comes in 2010. It is the NBA Finals, that Game 7 loss to the Los Angeles Lakers. And the reason this is so low is because it was my first season watching the Celtics. I was just kind of along for the ride, and I don't remember much of that season, except we just got off to a really good start. But I do remember, especially in that Game 7, those key points. I remember being up around 10 points midway through the third quarter. I remember Paul Gasol going off while Kobe was in foul trouble and not hitting his shots. And then we get down, and we have to fight our way back into the game. And we do that. We get down by 1 possession. Then Ron Artest drains a three. Maybe the worst offensive player on the court at the time makes the biggest shot of the game. Then my favorite player at the time, Ray Allen, drills a three in the corner to put us back within one score. The Lakers get two back, and Rondo decides to go beast mode, grabs an offensive rebound, goes into the corner and pops a three and makes it to put us back within two. Then Rondo completely whiffs on the next possession, and we lose the game. And this game really kind of drew me to the Celtics and that fan base and the culture of this team, and it is why I love this team. It was my first heartbreaking loss as a Celtics fan, but it's something that will be ingrained in my memory. I remember just being up in my room, watching it with my brother, and then just being so upset when they lost. But I was thinking, maybe there's next year. But little did I know that team was forming, and we had very little chance to get back to the top of the mountain. The number 7 game on this list comes in 2019 in the second round, that Game 5 loss to the Milwaukee Bucks. And this 2019 team was so disappointing. How much talent this team had, and to get steamrolled the way we did was just embarrassing as a Celtics fan. And it's the way they lost. The team kind of just gave up in the middle of the series, and you kind of just felt that change of momentum with the team. But Boston was up at half in Game 3 and Game 4, had terrible third quarters, and ended up losing both of those games by double digits. They could have easily been up 3-1 in this series going into this Game 5, but it was the other way around where the Bucks were up 3-1. But this game is here for a reason, and it's because everyone knew Kyrie was gone after this game and after this loss. This group of Celtics wasn't anymore after this game. Kyrie left. Gordon Hayward left in the offseason of 2021. Al Horford left in this offseason to go to Philadelphia. Rozier left to go to Charlotte. And all we had was Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, and Jaylen Brown left on this team. I remember just finishing up my freshman year of college and being excited to see this Celtics team make a deep run. And we crapped the bed pretty nicely this year. And I was left in a state of what was next, and are we a competitive team? Then Tatum, then Brown got a chance to develop into those All-NBA caliber players that they are now. But at the time, I was extremely worried about my Celtics and the future that was ahead for them. Number 6 game on this list is that Game 3 blowout loss to Miami in 2023. And everybody knows what happened in this game because it was so recent at the time I'm recording this video. But this game definitely deserves a spot on this list. The lack of urgency in this game and how the Celtics just gave up so easily in this game. This is one of the worst showings I've ever seen, especially as a Celtics fan. And Joe Mazzulla, got completely outcoached and outclassed in this game. And this team looked like they've never touched a basketball court before. They played no defense. They allowed the Heat to score on 57% of their shots and 54% from three. It was just an awful game. The fact that Mazzulla sat all his starters at the beginning of the fourth quarter was just so surprising to me. They just gave up. There was no fight left in this team. They gave up. It looked like it was an elimination game, but it was only Game 3. There was still a game left for them to lose before they were eliminated, and they just gave up before that game. Honestly, at the time, I was ready to trade Brown for Damian Lillard, but this team ended up fighting back, ended up taking 2 games, and it's what makes me proud to be a Celtics fan. However, I'm still not sold on Joe Mazzulla. The number 5 game on this list is that dreaded Game 2 loss at Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2012. This game still hurts to this day. If Boston wins this game, they go up 3-1 the series and probably win the series and maybe win their second championship with that core unit going up against a very young Thunder team at the time. But we blew it. We blew an early lead in an all-time game by Rondo. He was close to having a 40-point triple-double in this game, and we wasted it. Rondo gave us the game of his life, and we just blew it. We blew it. We crumbled. This game gave us the possibility of never seeing that Game 6 performance by LeBron James later in the series. There were so many emotions for me going through this game. I absolutely despise the Heat. Plus, my brother was a huge Heat fan going back to when Shaq got on the Heat and seeing his team succeed over mine was just really annoying. I just remember thinking, we aren't going to win this series because Rondo isn't going to put up another game like this. And I thought we really blew our chance to take a hold of this series going into Boston. But we honestly let go of the series later on in that Game 6 in Boston. The number 4 game on this list is the one I just mentioned. It is that Game 6 loss in Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2012 against Miami. Man, this game was heartbreaking to me. This was the last game that the original Big Three was together. We were coming off a spectacular win in Miami where Paul Pierce hit a disgusting dagger in LeBron's face. So I just remember going into this game being really hyped. Like we were about to send LeBron back to Cleveland after a second straight devastating playoff loss. Well, LeBron decided to have arguably one of his best games of his career, if not the best game of his career. A generational talent doing that alongside 2 Hall of Famers in Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh is going to put a lot of teams in a big hole, and it did. This one stands out because we were at home in a closeout game, and it just happened to be the first time this group of Celtics finally started to show their age. The Big Three of the Celtics put up a measly 31 points, while LeBron put up 45 by himself. Just to put this game into perspective, like I mentioned earlier, my brother is a huge Heat fan. And sitting there watching this game with him just heightened that experience. This loss really put a dagger in the Celtics, and we were never going back to Miami in that Game 7 and winning that game. It was just not going to happen. It was such a soul-crushing loss to have your team going on a high, going into your home stadium, home arena, and completely blowing it the way they did and getting dominated the way they did. It was just so disappointing. And by the time the second quarter rolled around, we knew we probably had lost this game and lost this opportunity to go to the finals. It was just such a disappointing loss. And it ended the Big Three in Boston. Number 3 on this list is another Heat game, and it's the bubble Game 1 meltdown of the Eastern Conference Finals in 2020. This game made my stomach drop. I was flabbergasted at what just took place in this game. This Celtics team had a lot going for it in this season. We go out in free agency and get Kemba Walker, a point guard that actually wanted to be in Boston. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown finally developed into those all-star caliber players, and we had a defensive ace in Marcus Smart. I was watching this game in that same living room. I had watched so many Celtics games prior. I felt actually good about this series. We had beaten Jimmy Butler before with Isaiah Thomas. Now we have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who actually might be a step up above Isaiah Thomas. I knew this series was going to be a dogfight, but we had been in so many dogfights in the past. I felt like we were up to the challenge. But boy, was I wrong. This game was tied at half, and we were up by 12 going into the fourth quarter. The Heat just started easing their way back into the game, and with 3 minutes left, the Heat took the lead on the former Celtic Jay Crowder's three-pointer. Jason Tatum comes up really short on a three, and it leads to an easy outlet for Bam to give the Heat a three-point lead. Brown then gets a tip-in and cuts into the lead. Then a few possessions later, Kemba Walker hits his signature step back to put the Celtics up by 1 with 23 seconds left. I was like, we have a good defense, and all we need is one stop. Jimmy Butler had other plans. He hits his free throw and gives the Heat a 2-point lead with 12 seconds left. We've had so many clutch moments over the years, and I thought it was going to happen again. But then this happened.
Butler got downhill, couldn't punch it. Bam says, get it out of here. Out of bounds.
That block still haunts me, and it tore down that Celtics team. We were never able to get back on track in close games, and we lost in 5. My brother was standing beside me and screamed at the top of his lungs with joy after that block. This loss was devastating, and I didn't know if this team could get over the hump. The number 2 game on this list is the 2022 NBA Finals Game 4 loss to the Golden State Warriors. And what can I say about this game? We finally get over the Eastern Conference Finals hump, and we take a 2-1 series lead against the Dynasty Warriors. In this game, we are up at half, and we are up by 1 with just over 5 minutes left in the game. Marcus Smart gets his shot blocked, and then the ball finds him again, and he drains a three-pointer to put Boston up by 4 with 5:17 to go in the game. TD Garden is rocking at the moment, and the momentum feels like is on our side. Then we give up an offensive rebound to Andrew Wiggins, and he puts it back. Then the next possession, Clay comes down and hits a clutch three-pointer to give the Warriors a lead with 4.5 to go in the game. Then fast forward a little bit, 2.5 to go in the game. The Warriors are up by 3, and Marcus Smart misses a three-pointer, and Derek White passes an open floater. And he finds Marcus Smart, and he bricks another 3. After another brick, Celtics 3, Curry comes down and casually hits a three-pointer in Derek White's face to give the Warriors a 6-point lead. Horford puts life back into the crowd with a 3 of his own, but very, very shortly after, Draymond Green gets an offensive rebound and dishes it to Looney, and it gives the Warriors a 5-point lead. The next possession, Jaylen Brown has an open dunk and just stumbles, and he puts himself in the coffin corner and loses the ball out of bounds, and it ends up being the Warriors' ball. After this, we lost the game. and really the momentum shifted and we lost the series. This game took all the confidence out of the Celtics and gave it to the Warriors. I was still hopeful that we could take one in Golden State after it, but I knew we probably lost the series. We had a golden opportunity to put the series away, and instead we beat ourselves. This loss was so frustrating as a Celtics fan. We've waited 13 years for them to make a championship appearance, and they beat themselves. It was super disappointing and super frustrating, and this loss is what I look back on that finals and why we lost the NBA Finals. The number one game on this list, if you haven't guessed it already, is that Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals loss against the Cavaliers in 2018. This game had all the emotions running through me. This is probably my favorite Celtics team, and it was my last year of high school to go along with that, and I really latched onto this team. We had a rookie, Jason Tatum, a second-year Jaylen Brown. Gordon Hayward and Kyrie were both injured for the season, and Terry Rozier and Marcus Morris basically earned themselves a big, nice contract for their play this season. This team was so fun to watch, and they had so much grit to them. We started this game off hot, and we get up to a 12-point lead halfway through the second quarter, but the Cavaliers just keep fighting back. Every time we make a great play, they come back and they make an equally as great of a play. We had a grip on this game, and we let it go. The Cavs led going into the fourth quarter and really kept that lead until this happened.
Drives down and throws it down. Wow!
This felt like the momentum shift that we needed, and it was for a possession because Tatum came up with a clutch three to put the Celtics up one. Then the very next possession, the former Celtic, Jeff Green, drills a three to put the Cavs up by 2, and the Celtics never regained the lead after that. Boston's possessions under 2 minutes was a turnover by Tatum, a missed three by Rozier, a terrible three by Jaylen Brown, a missed gimme by Marcus Smart, and a missed three-pointer by Marcus Morris. And that was until like 40 seconds left in the game. All these bad possessions just took the soul right out of me. I was downstairs watching it in the basement with my brother, and the life just got taken right out of me. I don't think I've ever been so upset with a loss before, and it was absolutely just devastating. We had so many chances to win this game and take control of this game, and we never did. This is by far the worst Celtics loss I've experienced as a fan of the team. Until this game isn't officially on the list because it is so recent, but I had to include it because it would be on the list. Just I don't know where it would be at the moment because of recency bias. But this game was just brutal. The nervousness going into this game was unreal. Then it happened. The worst possible thing happened. Jason Tatum twisted his ankle on the very first play of the game, and it was all downhill from there. He started playing very passive, and the Heat took control of the game in the first half. And it was just such a gut punch because you knew immediately the Celtics were not winning this game. And we ended up losing the game. And I had to stop watching it at the start of the fourth quarter because I knew it was just going to go in a downward spiral, and it ended up going down in that downward spiral, and nothing was going our way in this game. None of the calls, none of the bounces, and none of the shots were falling in this game. It was just Miami's night. This officially wraps up my top 10 worst Celtics playoff losses since 2010. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you want more content like this. And make sure to comment. Let me know how I can make it better and make it more enjoyable for y'all. And if you have any other videos in mind or any other list about NBA, NFL, or anything like that, just let me know and I can make it. So I appreciate y'all, and I will see y'all in the next video.